Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classics slash non-classics. Wait, no review. This is episode number 52. In this episode, I'm reviewing X-Men Mutant Massacre. That's right, Mutant Massacre, where it has Kenny X-Men 210, 214, X-Factor 9-11. This is from the first volume. That's not volume 3. New Mutants 46, Thor 373, 374, Power Pack 27, and Daredevil number 238. And they do fight in this book. Now, the writers in here are as follows: Chris Claremont, Louise Simonson. Those of you know her as the original writer for Man of Steel, and she was also the writer for X Factor. Walt Simonson, who writes Thor issues, and Ann Nocenti. This was the very first X-Men crossover that came out back in the 1980s. So this is the oldest storyline I've actually reviewed on here for a crossover. Now, despite that being a crossover, basically, I won't spoke too much about this book. So here's what follows: a lot of people die in this story. A lot of Morlocks get killed. Angel basically gets his wings amputated after this story. X-Factor teams up with Thor. Power Pack only appears for one issue. That their involvement in this story is completely unnecessary, and they're just there just to simply just watch the event unfold right in front of them. Daredevil kind of does make sense because from Daredevil's point of view, it takes place immediately after Massacre. This one says continues. It just has Sabretooth popping up in there, and I have the issue. It's an okay issue. But Chris Claremont does really good with his very first X-Men crossover. Basically, there was some things that happened prior to this, like Magneto joining. Basically, a couple things happened. Basically, before we read this, like Magneto taking over as teaching the New Mutants and X-Factor forming not too long ago. But this story is an X-Men classic. Despite that it's a dark story, it's very well written, and a lot of stuff happens. And plus, it's also introduction not only to Sabretooth to the X-Men franchise, because he fought Spider-Man and Iron Fist prior to this, it's also the introduction of the Marauders, the people who killed the Morlocks, well, most of them anyways. Let's see. This story came out in 1986, 1987. So basically a very brief crossover. Basically a crossover with all three X titles, plus it has Thor. Thor actually ties in with more of the X Factor stuff, and so does Power Pack. Daredevil really doesn't really connect very much to this story. But basically, oh yes, and Kitty Pryde is stuck in phase form. But basically the Morlocks are never the same after this, but Chris Claremont did a really good job heading up this crossover with the Kenny X-Men issues, and plus everybody else did this particular thing. The Slavic Ann Nocenti doing what she's doing. Catwoman, she did a really good job with it. She's writing a lot better stuff with Marvel. She, in my opinion, I think she's written better issues with Marvel than she did with DC. Because with Marvel, she knows exactly what she's doing. In DC, she has no idea what she's doing. But if you want to read good Nocenti stuff, read this. Bad, read Catwoman. But I still read Catwoman anyway, so I like Catwoman. But that's pretty much it. Not much can say about this book, but you've got to read it. This is a very important event that happens in the X-Men franchise. This is frequently referenced over the years. But it's still a very good book, and it's very thick, just like the Prelude Age of Apocalypse thing. But this is the second printing of this. The first printing, the cover is in here. Let's see, where's that cover? I know it's in here. This was the cover to the original printing of the book, which I have read. That's when I first got rid of the crossover. This is the second printing, but this one not only has the original issues that tie into it, but also has a Daredevil issue that was never printed. Daredevil issue was the only thing not printed with the original book. This book has every single issue that part of this crossover, even some that are not really part of the crossover, but they technically are. But before you read this book, you gotta read pretty much almost Chris Claremont's entire run at this point. You gotta read the first 8 issues of X Factor, know what's going on with that. New Mutants really, you can probably read far back in issue 1. I mean, New Mutants, you know, New Mutants is up to issue 46. They have very little to do with what's going on in this crossover, just like Power Pack, but it's still very good. Oh, if you want to get a taste of the artwork, this is 80s style artwork right here. This is an artwork basically that's really good artwork. 80s was known for having very good artwork over the years. Walt Simonson only writes the Thor issues. Chris Claremont writes the Kenny X-Men issues. I think Anna says they write the Power Pack and New Mutants issue, but that's pretty much it. Good book, like the other books. I give this book a 5 out of 5. Okay? You should get it. Despite the fact it's $35, it's well worth your money because even though this is a library book, I got this for free, but it's a very good read. But I recommend reading what I recommend, like pretty much almost Chris Claremont's run prior to this point, which you can read in Essential X-Men books. Essential X Factor line, which pretty much catches up with like what's going on X Factor. New Mutants, just read New Mutants Classic, and Thor, you gotta read a whole bunch. You gotta read pretty much almost Walt Simonson's run to understand what's going on with that. Power Pack, no. Daredevil, kind of the same thing, but all in all, that's it. And that's it for this book. Okay? Alright? That's it. See you all in my next video, where I review another graphic novel. And it's another X-Men book. Okay? Bye.